Thanks for joining me for Competency 1 of the Texas Principal Examination. Stay tuned for the practice quiz. Also, you're welcome to write me. Send me an email with your comments. Change in education is not only possible, but it's often necessary, especially in places with groups that want to maintain a status quo that supports student failure. I'm Jim Becca. I've been a classroom teacher for many years, and I've seen a variety of administrative leadership styles. Some principals have a model that they try to impose on the community. Sure, they go through the motions of collaboration, but they choose to collaborate only with people they like, or people who think like them. I'm a journalism teacher and I write a lot, and the first newspaper column I wrote was in 1973, and it was about diversity. I got the idea from a minister friend of mine, a comment he had made. He said that Lester Maddox and George Wallace during the civil rights days would be in agreement over the way African American people should be treated. But of course their ideas were not fair to people of color. Now, he had gone on to say that if you included Martin Luther King in a discussion with those two, they probably would have come up with a fair and more accurate conclusion to the racial problems of the 1960s. But the bottom line is that disagreement and heated discussions are not unhealthy. Competency 1 of the Texas Principal Examination deals with culture, and every school has one. One school culture might foster the expectation of every student not only gaining acceptance to a college, but gaining acceptance to an Ivy League college. Cultures of failure also exist. They're places where parents, teachers, and the community expect very little achievement from students, and they sometimes go out of their way to foster a vision of low student achievement. Yeshiva is the Hebrew word for study. It's derived from the word yashev, which means to sit. Now, the ancient Hebrews felt that anyone who could not sit and listen could not learn. When I first became a teacher, I had a lot of trouble getting students to sit in their seats and listen. And after a while, I began to wonder if it was possible to keep students in their seats listening. Fortunately, through talking with other faculty, I came to the realization that students do have the ability to sit in their seats and listen. And guess what? I eventually came to expect students to sit in their seats and listen. Competency 1 of the Texas Principal Examination says the campus principal should be able to shape campus culture by facilitating the development, articulation, implementation, and stewardship of a vision of learning that's shared and supported by the school community. How do you change the expectations or visions of a community? Merely passing some new laws or new school board policies without the support of the community are exercises in futility.
It's kind of interesting because I have gone into two new schools and as principal in two different positions, and at that time both of those campuses were kind of at a neutral position in achievement. They weren't doing necessarily poorly, but they were also not necessarily moving forward at the rate that you would like to see, the rate of achievement that you would like to see. So, and it's one of those things they really don't teach you when you go to school. There are a lot of common sense things, and a lot of it has to do with assessment, obviously, data on the students. But also, one of the things that I found that is extremely important is information regarding the community's expectations, the traditions of the school, the things that they hold as important, because those things have to be positives for you. And it typically is the idea of a new person coming in, well, I may want to change this because logically that would seem to be the thing to do. So you have to weigh those things that are valued by that community and by that school community.
The principal must work on relationships with everyone. Relationships built on collaboration and mutual respect are important to a healthy culture, climate, and vision.
one of the things that a lot of people who I have mentored under have told me is that everything should go very slowly. People are very resistant to change, and Willard Daggett, who's the head of the International Center for Leadership and Education, always says before you can affect change in a positive way, there has to be more desire for change than resistance to change. And one of the things you have to determine when you go in there is how much resistance there's going to be to change, if any.
Making sure your community is diverse is also important. Diversity of thoughts, ideas, and individuals involved will result in innovation.
A lot of the things are affect issues. How to find out how students respond to staff members, to find how they interact with staff members, how staff members interact with students. Possibly a survey of students would be a good tool to give you some data to work with.
Once everything is in place, it doesn't stop. Continuous planning, assessment, and alignment are essential.
They may be ready to see changes. On the other hand, they may not. And so typically the things that I have changed when I go in are things that are comfort things. Possibly rearranging schedules, taking responsibilities off of teachers, developing some relationships with those guys that says to them that I care about possibly some of the little issues. One of the schools I went into, teachers were very upset because they had to do write out excuses for attendance and keep track of tardies. Well, those are kind of bookkeeping things, and we managed to develop a system to take those off of teachers to give them more productive time. So immediately, right up front, I established a rapport that said I was interested in them, and I was interested in what was going to be positive and what was going to give them more time, and develop some trust about change.
Often the status quo doesn't work, and you've got to support risk-taking and encourage thinking out of the box.
Then I developed got me a very strong committee of department chairs, and we sat and discussed a lot of their concerns. I did a lot of listening and asking teachers what they were concerned about, asking staff members what they were concerned about, looking at how clean the building was, looking at how well students behaved in the cafeteria. All of those sorts of interactions and things give you ideas of the culture of the school, because any change that takes place is going to have to take place within that culture.
Some key words for Competency 1. Culture is the sum total of the beliefs and expectations of the community. Vision is a picture in the minds of everyone of what a school could be. Collaboration means that the principal will work with others and share decision making. Alignment means that everything goes in its place. Risk-taking is important because positive change often will not take place without trying something different. Let's try a test scenario. Imagine that a teacher from your school is reported in the local newspaper to be having an affair with a student. How would you handle this? A. Not return phone calls from reporters. B. Avoid discussion and hope that the whole situation will go away. C. Answer reporter questions honestly, even if you don't have the answers. D. Issue copies of school policies to all staff. The answer is C. Don't avoid the news media, and don't lie to them either. Thanks for watching, and check out the rest of the tutorials.